Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set, cocked, locked? Here we go. Your dial set correctly to USA Prepares. Thank you for being in class today. Jason's engineering the broadcast in Minnesota. Rich Scheben's with us, and I'll give you the phone number if you'd like to call in. Well, actually, we're not going to take calls, are we today, Rich?
You know what, Vince? I am so prepared with so much information in 2 hours of sharing the mic. I just feel, folks, this is my philosophy right now. If America does not wake up to the propaganda, the hoaxes, the funding of everything anti-American by the wealthiest people in the country and in the world, if we don't wake up over this next few months, America is going to be lost. That includes the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, anything to do with equality, fairness, tolerance, and how the elite use these definitions and change them for their own benefit.
Okay.
I would like
we won't
to
take
give as many
calls to
articles as possible, Vince, if that's okay.
Yeah, Rich, the only thing is Arjun has already called in before I even got connected. So we'll take his call, no other calls. Okay?
Absolutely.
Just one,
sounds great.
One call today.
That sounds great.
Arjun, welcome. You're on with Rich Scheben and me.
Hey guys. Thank you for taking my call. The thing is that, the thing is, I went to a dentist, and the thing is that, like, one of the dentists told me that I had to get like a root canal in one of my tooth. I went to two other dentists. They told me I have to get like this teeth extracted, and then they will put like a new teeth in. And at that point of time, I had swelling in my cheek. So because of this tooth problem, so they gave me antibiotic, amoxicillin, and ibuprofen. So I ate it completely, and my swelling and everything is gone. And like I'm able to eat food from the left side. Like I'm not using the right tooth.
Yeah.
So what do you suggest? What should I do? Should I get like a root canal, or should I get like extract?
I have, Arjun, I have my answer, and I think I have an answer that John Reagan would give you, but it's not the same answer that a dentist would give you. And here's what it is. There are people who believe, John Reagan is one of them. I'm trying to remember what he said, but I'm going to ask him if he'll come on and talk about this. Maybe within a week or so, that if you have dead material in your body, meaning you have the root canal, which is drilling out and extracting the root and then filling in the hole, you've got dead material in your mouth, and that can be a source of infection, and it can be dangerous, according to some people, not everybody. And if you talk to dentists, they say, oh, we've been doing it for a long time, it works great. Now, the other thing is if you have an implant, which is what you're talking about, that can be dangerous as well, because that's foreign material in your body, like a screw to which the tooth, a replacement synthetic tooth, is bonded. So no matter what, it's a lousy situation. And so what a lot of people do in that situation is they have the tooth extracted, but that's going to leave a hole. So there's no good answer, but I lean toward having the tooth extracted because it's damaged anyway. Rich Scheben, do you have any comments about that?
Well, first of all, you can't diagnose over the phone. It's very hard,
right.
RJ. Now, second of all, antibiotics are usually given to a patient to reduce inflammation and infection before a procedure is done, because it's very difficult to have an efficacious procedure during a compromised situation. So, what Vince said, tooth extraction, it depends on where the tooth is. Now, keep in mind, you could get an infection that's so bad in the mouth. It happens often, not just back in the Middle Ages, but it even happens today because of dentist costs. But a lot of people, you read about it too often, that when you get an infection, it could literally go through your body and kill you. I mean, people who have had infections in the mouth because of the teeth, it's not only can be extremely painful, but the toxicity of the infection could kill you. So whatever you decide to do, extract it, root canal, or put in a fake tooth, which they can do that pretty easy now too. The tooth is like connected to a screw and they can put it in. So whatever you decide to do, you need to do something. Because the reason why you're asymptomatic right now is because you were on antibiotics, which again, reducing inflammation and infection. But it most likely will come back. Again, I can't give a diagnosis or a prognosis over the phone because, first of all, I'm not a dentist, and second of all, I'm not there to see. But I would definitely look into it and get something done, especially if symptoms occur. But beware, when you take those antibiotics, you will be asymptomatic for a short period of time, most likely.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's all I have. Thank you very much, guys.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome.
Arjun, did you want me to see if I can get Captain John Reagan on to talk about this?
Yes, please. Will he come right away or he will come next week?
It'll probably be, let me think, it'll probably be next week.
Okay.
I've tried to get in touch with him, and I have been unable to get in touch with him. So I'm not sure what's going on with Captain John Reagan. He might be out of town. I don't know. So I will try to get in touch with him, and I'll make that announcement. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, man. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Yep. Bye.
Okay. So, Rich, since you mentioned cars, I just wanted to mention this because this I believe is one of the reasons why people are rioting and why people are just angry. And it goes all the way back to the early 1970s, probably like 1969, 1970, 71. And when you bought a car battery back then, they were sold with different labels. Like you could buy a Sears battery, you could buy an Exide, you could buy a Firestone, you could buy an Interstate, a Willard. And all of them had something in common. They had a black case and a black top, and they had removable caps so you could top off the electrolyte with distilled water. That being the case, they were sold with warranties. So the greater the warranty, the belief was the better the battery and the more expensive. So you could get a car battery with a 12-month warranty or a 24 or 36 months. And some, like Firestone, I believe, had a 12, an 18, and a 24-month warranty. And they were prorated, so when the battery failed, you would get that unused portion of the warranty credited toward your next battery purchase. Okay, well, Sears came out with something that was unheard of. And it was the Die Hard battery, D-I-E space H-A-R-D battery. And it had a different color case. It was white, like a milk jug, white, with a black top and removable caps. And they guaranteed theirs for 48 months. And I was an automotive mechanic back then. I was a young mechanic. And I went to the shop foreman and I said, how is it possible that no one else can sell a battery with a 4-year life expectancy, but we can? How is that possible? What are we doing differently? He said, well, we can't do it either. So there was this belief that if you bought a 12-month warranty battery, it would last 12 months or maybe a little longer. If you bought one that had a 24-month warranty, you'd have a life expectancy of 24 months or longer. And 36 months, same thing. Well, when we were selling Sears batteries, and we sold a lot of them, I mean a lot of them, because I went to the back room and I saw all the batteries and I saw the deliveries. We were selling batteries like crazy, and people were buying the more expensive diehards. So the cost per month for a diehard was a little bit more expensive than for the cost per month of a 36-month battery, for example, from a competitor. And so what the shop foreman told me is we can't do it either. We can't make them last, more than 36 months, but we can warranty them for 48 months. And he said, we'll have battery customers for life. Because what'll happen is they'll buy a battery. It'll be a 36-month battery in a 48-month package, and we'll warranty it. And when it quits in 36 months, we'll have another battery customer. And we'll keep selling more batteries. And that's why people are frosted, because we believed that Sears had a better battery, a 48-month battery, but it wasn't. It was 36 months. We've been lied to, and that was the beginning of some of the outrageous deception that we see today. So that's just one small, tiny speck of an example of why people are really, really angry, because others took this Sears model and they extrapolated. They made it worse and worse and worse. So, like lifetime warranty tools, like from Harbor Freight, that break like crazy, that are substandard, but they've got a lifetime warranty, but they're not as good as an American tool. So I just wanted to share that, Rich Scheben, with our class. That's one of the reasons why people are angry.
Yeah, well, I've got lots of reasons why people are angry, because they're tired of the hypocrisies and double standards coming from the elite. They're tired of the corruption, the lies, the manipulation, the redefinition of terms like equality, fairness, tolerance, and diversity, when we on this show has given thousands of pieces of evidence. How many times have I lectured on money coming out of thin air from the central banks, fractional reserve lending, which now banks don't even have to have cash on hand, welfare for the rich regarding stock buybacks. My God, the shuffling of money, the creative accounting, the investment into non-productive, non-earning that benefits the elite. In exchange, we're losing jobs to robotics, automation, and artificial intelligence. My God, I'm blue in the face talking about all this. So I have a bunch of articles here. The two big topics of discussion in the mainstream media right now is the COVID-19 virus and Black Lives Matter. So I did a lot of homework. I want to discuss those, if I may, Vince, and get to it because we have so little time, please.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you're done, I will make the entire class sick to your respective stomachs. And I've got something that's not part of that, but it will make you more,
well,
whatever anger.
I'm going to need 6.5 hours for this 2-hour segment, just so you know. Okay.
Well, okay, we can do that.
That was total sarcasm.
I know the guy. I know the guy. His name is Jason. He can make that happen. But when you're done, I'm going to make everyone really, really angry, especially this class, beyond anger.
Okay.
Go ahead,
I'm going to start with the COVID-19, and then go to Black Lives Matter, which is going to be a little more lengthy. But I realize we're always hurting for time, and I have to shortcut everything, so I'm just going to get going here. FDA sued for blocking hydroxychloroquine. And here comes the music already. It's official. COVID-19 is the biggest hoax in history. Now the perpetrators must be punished. We will be back right after the break, folks, and I got a lot more to go. Next article. 54 NIH scientists fired over ties to China. NIH is the National Institute of Health. Okay, when I used to work for Big Pharma, a very corrupt company, we use NIH guidelines for asthma regulations all the time. Well, obviously, our own scientists have sold out, just like academia. How come there's so many people in laboratories and in colleges who have been getting money from China? Isn't this a little curious? Next article. Disney bans Tucker Carlson while openly collaborating with Chinese Communist Party, the party that actually takes people's organs out of their body and sells them, the party that actually has concentration camps right now, or containment camps, or whatever political correct term they use. Next article. Twitter admits China used 200,000 fake accounts 150 more times than Russia. Do you really think everything is Russia, Russia, Russia? No. They're protecting China because half of Americans, including the Democrat Party, has sold out to China. Next article. Louis Farrakhan warns Africans not to take Bill Gates vaccines. Next article. First of all, it shouldn't be African Americans. All of us should be warned about taking vaccines because everything is run by Big Pharma and the people who fund them. Next article. MSNBC doctor who marched in Seattle protest suddenly thinks all political rallies must be banned. See, folks, the hypocrisy and double standards is beyond belief. This is why I've been calling for practice what you preach laws for so many years. Now, regarding the coronavirus, I'm sure most of this audience is aware that there was a hero whistleblower by the name of Aaron who basically was saying that coronavirus hoax is killing low-income people. I'm not saying it's not a real virus, but when the CDC first came out with mortality rates, it was going to be 3.4%. Millions were going to be dying in the street. Okay, now it's like 2.26%, and then if you take out the 75-year-olds plus and take out nursing home recipients, it's like 0.00 something. Now, again, I'm not saying this virus isn't scary. I'm not saying it's not contagious. But how I'm stating a lot of things now, not just as a disclaimer, but you've heard me over the last few months using the terms, would you be surprised? Because I don't have a crystal ball. I'm not condoning anything. I'm not predicting anything. Okay, but would you be surprised if certain powers that be, like the Bill Gates and other people who vote Democrat, knew about the virus in the lab that already existed, knew it mutated, knew they openly wanted depopulation, which has been admitted, and we've mentioned many names on this show? Would you be surprised if the riots are manufactured to get rid of rioters and looters in areas of high population to infect them with maybe something that could be a new bioweapon? Do we know any of this? We don't. Okay, so I'm just putting it all out there because there's so much. When Vince, when you were saying that people are ticked off, okay, they're scared. They don't know what to believe. They see words being manipulated. They see the elite not practicing what they preach and pulling out double standards and hypocrisies all day long. They see corruption and lies. They see they don't know who to believe and who to count on. That's why we always say, don't believe us. Some people might think some of these articles I come up with are not published in the public domain, but they are. You know, it's just like there's a lot of frustration out there. We've talked to President Trump to declassify all this stuff. Many times the FISA warrants, I know some things are being declassified. We need all the Epstein names, the Clinton Foundation, the Uranium One. We need all the documents to Barack Obama and the billions of dollars of cash that went to Iran. We need to declassify 911. We need new alternative energies. We need all this information, President Trump. Because when you say that to the so-called clueless Dem governor, I'm reading an article right here, take Seattle back from domestic terrorists or I will, you should have done this weeks ago. It's because of the fact that I realize that we're showing that the Democrats are doing a lot of illegal crimes because nothing is getting better. Murder, revolutionary behaviors, riots, rape, mayhem, looting businesses, defunding police, creating a brown shirt for the future. We all see this happening. But something has to be done when it's illegal. It's the rule of law. We'll be right back, folks.
Rich Scheben's with us. Rich, please continue.
Thank you, Vince. I'm just going to roar through as much data as I can here. All right, folks, I'm going to switch gears to Black Lives Matter here and hopefully uncover some information that hasn't been discussed and definitely has not been discussed in the mainstream media, because we all know mainstream media is designed to divide and conquer. Hoax, propaganda, false flags, lies, gaslighting. That's their MO. First article, BLM is a money laundering operation for the DNC. That is actually a fact. Black Lives Matter is a shell company for Democrats. It's not legal. It's called Act Blue. What it does, it bankrolls Democrat candidates. And this is why they want to change words and be be professional pot stirrers by saying rioting and looting are considered racist terms. You've got to be kidding me. Basically, we've given the elite free lunch, and all the damage is going to the poor middle class of every color, every gender, every sexual orientation. If we don't unite when we see all the propaganda against us, then there's no hope for America. But black lives only matter when taken by a totally pale, meaning lives, a destruction, a murder, is only matters when it's taken by the most pale-skinned white person, not half white, not if they have a black mother or a black father. Doesn't matter. It can't be. It's got to be partially white, but all white. Okay, it can't be partially white. It's got to be all white. We're getting to the point where the shade of skin pigmentation, gender, sexual orientation, religion is carrying more weight in the narrative than truth and rule of law. Okay, I'm reading that we have a failed social experiment. It's all over the internet. They're using that term on so many different articles. It's not a failed social experiment. It's a social experiment that's working according to plan because we've been force-fed this Marx, Alinsky, Frankfurt School, Cloward and Piven, Communist Manifesto sandwich. They purposely made us drunk on the Kool-Aid of political correctness. This has set the stage for all this division, government intervention, confiscation of wealth from the bottom 93%, redistribution of wealth from the little guy to the big guy. It disguises through group identity politics all the agendas, the Agenda 21, the Agenda 30, the words humanitarian, sustainable city, global warming, climate change. This is all done to reduce and lose our individual rights. It's all divide and conquer strategies, all the pandering, all the virtue signaling, and this is and you've heard me talk about the legitimization of work. How does if work no longer means anything, how does our life improve? It doesn't. When people demand to lower the bars of standards and expectations for a job based on what group you're in, then hard work, proven results, and qualifications no longer matter. Those people who are demanding to lower the bars of standards are doubting their own value and creating an economic black hole. That means we are all put into a caste system. And the same people who demand no protection, rights, or restitution under the rule of law for the people affected. That's no check on runaway power. That means the rule of law is gone. And thirdly, we're enabling and protecting the most corrupt companies in the country, the world, and that includes governments. We're giving them liability immunity. And we destroy all types of capitalism, free markets. We're enforcing fraud, illegitimacy, and fascism, which creates more wealth inequality. They want us, the powers that be, to insult our group, our hyphen, our pronouns. They don't want us to be American. We've given free lunch to the wealthiest of the wealthy. And all that wealth redistribution and precedents that they're creating are giving them more asset ownership and more loopholes to basically take our taxation money and our money that's been inflated to having very little purchasing power to benefit their agenda. I promise you, the biggest mouths have the most nepotism and entitlements and the biggest inheritance. We're allowing hypocrisy and double standards and the brainwashing to sell out to the highest bidder. The people are not getting representation. And they're destroying us, killing us biologically, chemically, and technologically, along with psychologically. We're allowing the elite to poison us against ourselves. They try to associate terms like white privilege, white supremacy, Green New Deal. It's all part of the communist ideology. I mean, I'm more green than anybody. I live off-grid, been living off-grid for 13 years. I flush my own toilet with a bucket of gray water. For those of you who use corporations' electricity, 50% of it's coal. I don't use any of that. I mean, think about this communist insurrection that we have here. Russia, Ukraine, Mueller, impeach, the virus, the riots, the coup attempts, the cover-ups. Do you really think this is a coincidence? People have been purposely cooped up because of this so-called virus, and all of a sudden, they take advantage of George Floyd, the Democrats do, and the primary voting occurs right after that because they saw that they were losing the black vote. So they had to go into gimmickry and propaganda. Opportunity should be a formula, a scale, based on hard work, effort, proven results, and qualifications. People are overusing this term privilege, okay, because the Democrats and the mainstream media, they're all the same animal. They're all actors, just like Hollywood. You know, look at people who worked through college and paid off their own loans. That's what I did. Earned every job and lost several jobs because of affirmative action and quotas. I did. Privilege is not a thing, a criteria. It's a manufactured perception used as a tool to divide the people. Because privilege, it's all run by true privilege at the top. Did daddy or the government pay for your college? Give you a job? How about your big inheritance? Did they buy you a new car? Vacations? Did you live in your house up to 30 years old? The mainstream media, the Democrats in Hollywood have been buying their kids scholarships, test scores, and degrees for years. But they don't ask for money confiscation from Bezos or Zuckerberg or Soros or Gates. And you've heard me talk about laws of excess many, many, many times. Have you ever seen it happen? No. How come when Trump walks to church it's propaganda, but when the Dems kneel with African scarves, it isn't? When you notice someone's color, you're a racist. When you don't treat someone's group a special way, you're ignoring racism. When you don't engage in someone's culture, you're non-inclusive. When you discuss racism, you're silencing black votes. But when you don't discuss racism, it's white silence. You see, it's all propaganda. It's all hoax. It's all holding on to the narrative. I just gave you an example how BLM is a money laundering shell company for the Democrats. Everybody who's supporting BLM should be appalled by the hypocrisy and double standards. Here's a leaked memo, 2015. Democrat memo warned lawmakers, quote, don't offer support for radical Black Lives Matter. Are you tired of the hypocrisy and double standards now? The Plazios, New York City, shooting surge, murders up over 100%, rapes are going through the roof. Doesn't matter, right? It's because it's liberal, because you're a racist if you don't agree. Can't you see that Trump had 40% approval in the black community? People were waking up. They saw that the KKK was started by Democrats. They saw that the Democrats and Margaret Sanger started Planned Parenthood in black neighborhoods to reduce black population. They saw the evidence. People are waking up. How about all the 100+ years of Democrat-run cities? What did they do for blacks? They use them as pawns. The Democrats are using them as pawns. Next article, Democrat-run cities doomed. Next articles, 30 places named after Democrat Klansman Robert Byrd. Robert Byrd was a high-ranking senator. Well, he was also a high-ranking hierarchical person in the KKK. You don't hear about that, but you hear even when Hillary Clinton has mentioned that Klansman Robert Byrd was her mentor. The mainstream media still would not cover it. Next article, as businesses flee the violence, will major U.S. cities be transformed into economic wasteland? Give me a question that makes sense. Next article, Black Lives Matter Coalition demanding abolition of police previously received $33 million from Open Society foundations. This is being funded by the George Soroses of the world. It's proven. It's on paper. The dots are connected. The math is there. Next article, engineering a race war be the American police state Reichstag fire. Next article. Facebook says page celebrating dead cops doesn't violate its community standards. I'll guarantee you, there's bad people everywhere. But I've known a lot of cops in my day. Most of them are patriots. They're hardworking. Yes. Is there corrupt cops? Yes. Is there corrupt engineers? Yes. Is there corrupt scientists? I've given you how many examples of scientists in academia and major colleges selling out to the Chinese. How many have I given? I can't even count anymore. There's bad everywhere. But I'll tell you right now, you get rid of cops, you're going to have murder, rape, and mayhem go through the roof, and it's not going to be pretty, especially for the poor middle class, because the super wealthy are going to fly to their islands or take their yachts to their islands or be out in the sea in their yachts or go to New Zealand or go to the Cook Islands or go in their underground bunkers until everybody has killed each other. That's what's going to happen. Next article. Cuomo's New York, 250 inmates freed from prison, rearrested 450 times. Guess who's paying for that, folks? You, the taxpayers. And guess where, I've talked about the brown shirts and the black shirts before, but guess where Germany's Secret Service, SS, came from? Mostly prisoners who had no value of life. You think they're vetting people for what's coming? Duh. Next article, Texas Democrat. If people loot, so what? Burn it to the ground. Let me repeat that. Texas Democrat said, if people loot, so what? Burn it to the ground. Next article, BLM protesters demand removal of statue they knew nothing about. How many times have you seen people interviewed on the street? Why are you protesting? I don't know. Or they give some 1 or 2 line narrative, and then when they're asked to explain it, they can't. How many times have you seen people interviewed and they said, oh, well, President Trump did this and did that. Oh, President Trump's bad. He shouldn't have done that. And at the end of the interview, you know what they do? They disclose that President Obama did it. If we don't read, research, and think for ourselves, folks, you're going to be brainwashed. You're going to swallow the narrative. America will not stand a chance if we don't think on our own.
All right, we'll be right back with...
Thank you for being here.
Yeah. Rich Scheben's with us. Rich, please continue.
Well, thank you, Vince. I really appreciate you allowing me to exercise my First Amendment rights, because we are definitely not getting this information from the mainstream media, because the mainstream media, Hollywood, big corporations, the elite, they're all in bed together. They're all connected at the hip. All right. I'm going to mention a few articles here that are going to be just a little different, but still regarding some hypocrisy and double standards, and to show you how it really is less left-right paradigm and more the aristocracy managing and controlling the serfs. Okay. Munchin scrambles to halt stock rout, says we'll pump another $1 trillion into the economy this month. Well, folks, this is very disturbing in many different ways because, wow, I mean, what if, you remember I said this, Vince? Well, let me talk about stocks a little bit and then bonds and interest rates, because it's all related. The Fed's buying corporate bonds right now. The Fed we're in a Japanification of America, where free market and supply and demand is totally gone. The Fed is buying bonds, ETFs, exchange traded funds. It's all supposed to be illegal. They're not supposed to be able to buy ETFs either. But we have, the only thing they're allowed to buy is certain guaranteed issued, certain by the government, like the Ginnie Maes and U.S. Treasuries and things like that. But now the Fed's trying to own everything. They're now buying corporate bonds, high-yield bonds, junk bonds, ETFs, munis. There's a record bond issuance. And it's all for under the guise of massive liquidity for credit support, which in the long run it's going to do the opposite. But certain big outfits like BlackRock becomes a government liaison to the public for selling these instruments. So they get paid tens of millions of dollars in fees, okay, when the public can go online and buy them direct. So BlackRock is charging the Fed like 3% commission paid for by the taxpayers through taxes and inflation. And it's more wealth transfer from the bottom 93% to the top 1%. So these bonds, selling debt, the bailout through the money, and the stock backs, we're confusing liquidity and solvency. And it's all bailouts for the elite and should be bailouts for the middle class. Now, you've heard me say I've come up with many different ideas and solutions and suggestions for the middle class, because bonds are debt. Okay, debt holders, when the whole system crashes, bonds or debt holders get cashed out first before stock owners. So as we print more money, where the people have less purchasing power because the little people are paying for everything through taxes and inflation of money, when the stock market crashes, the bond market, which is 4 times greater than the equity market, is going to be able to cash in first. And they're not even going to get a dollar for dollar because there just isn't enough there. So where's the fine line between printing and inflation and taxation and consumer confidence and tolerance for all this money printing? So let me just give you one example here of the hypocrisy and double standards of the so-called Democrats. President Trump wants to create a $1 trillion infrastructure bill. Do you think the Democrats are going to pass it? No. They don't want prosperity. They don't want something that's better for the people, especially infrastructure, because that's synonymous to concrete and asphalt and bridges, which is synonymous to urban, suburban America, especially urban. Well, Trump wants to increase the infrastructure and increase jobs. I will bet you right now the Democrats will turn down that bill because they want people in pain. They want to take advantage of it. And some of the suggestions I've given over the last few months is, how about if the landowner holds the paper? You own a house, you own land, you sell it to some poor middle-class person who needs a break. No interest loan, no down payment. But after 1 year, the Treasury, I should say the Treasury/Fed, because they're one animal right now, buys the note from the guy who was the home/landowner instead of always bailing out the wealthy. It's a great idea. But why aren't we doing this? Because just like Munchin is doing right now, he wants to pump another $1 trillion into the economy where we have less purchasing power through inflation and taxation, which is only helping out the wealthy. They say it's for the pensions. Pensions should be combined. Why should the people paying Social Security be paying $5, $10, $15, $20, $30,000 a month for government workers who didn't put into the kitty that the poor people are funding? It's ridiculous. We'll be back right after the break, folks. I have more.
Everyone all set? Cocked, locked, hour number 2 of USA Prepares. Rich Scheben's with us. Rich, I just want to let you know that I get calls here at the farm. Some people have our phone number, and your name comes up a lot. They really appreciate what you do. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank
please
you
continue.
to you and you to the listeners as well, Vince. And I think people are just getting tired of hypocrisy, double standards. They're getting tired of lies and all this propaganda. And too many people are bought and paid for. And we are not at usaprepares.com. We stick up for the little guy. We stick up for the constitutional rule of law. We stick up for duly elected presidents. We stick up for common sense and logic, and the rule of law. And we have it. It's so obvious how we're being distracted, dumbed down, and divided by groups. And all these things need to come into the light. And the silent majority must be no more. We must all be questioning the tools of propaganda that they use to divide us every day. Vince?
Rich, you've mentioned lies and propaganda. Here's a story that is on Zero Hedge, and I want to read it. So before you comment, listen to the whole thing, please. And an urgent safety message came out from the Detectives Endowment Association. And this would be of the New York Police Department. So the New York Police Department Detectives Endowment Association tweeted on Monday that there were three officers were intentionally poisoned by one or more workers at the Shake Shack at 200 Broadway in Manhattan. And the tweet also said that none of the officers were seriously harmed. It should say none of the officers was seriously harmed, but English, I guess, was not their forte. The message said, quote, "Tonight, 3 of our fellow officers were intentionally poisoned by one or more workers at the Shake Shack at 200 Broadway in Manhattan. Fortunately, they were not seriously harmed. Please see the safety alert." And then they had a safety alert. End quote. Now, it goes on to say, there's another quote, when New York, this is from the New York City Police Benevolent Association. When, quote, when New York City police officers cannot even take a meal without coming under attack, it is clear that the environment in which we work has deteriorated to a critical level. We cannot afford to let our guard down for even a moment. End quote. And that was from the New York City Police Benevolent Association. Now let me tell you what happened. Headline. And this is all in the same story. And this is Zero Hedge. Quote, NYPD Chief Detective says, no criminality after officers sickened at Shake Shack. According to the New York Police Department Chief Detective Rodney Harrison, there was no criminality by Shake Shack's employees. And he did not elaborate. After a thorough investigation by NYPD's Manhattan South investigators, it has been determined that there was no criminality by the Shake Shack employees. Which raises some questions, right? Were any other customers affected? That's an important question. So the results of the investigation appeared to be this. Did the recovered cups and contents possess bleach-like contaminants? That's a good question. Did the officers actually ingest chemicals? That's a good question. Did they make it all up? That's a good question. So now what we're finding out is that 3 police officers say they were sickened, and the investigation says that there was no criminality by the people at Shake Shack. But the reports by the by the Detectives Endowment Association says tonight 3 of our fellow officers were intentionally poisoned by one or more of the workers at Shake Shack. So the Police Endowments Association is saying that the workers, one or more, intentionally poisoned 3 cops. The investigation by the cops say no, they didn't. So here we have a completely mixed message in one story. And normally it would be multiple stories having mixed messages, and even simultaneously. But now we have mixed messages in one story. So the question is, were the cops intentionally poisoned? Did they make it up? Which is it? Which is it? Well, according to the New York Police Department's chief detective, there was no criminality. So now that may lead you to ask the question, did the cups come with bleach in them? Or is this all made up? Or did the mix that, when you pull a lever, did the mix of this shake come with chlorine in it? Did someone do a lousy job rinsing the machine with chlorine and didn't completely clean the machine? Which is it? What is it? We don't know. But Shake Shack, I am sure, is going to see a decline in sales as a result of this report. All of them will. People say, hey, don't go to Shake Shack. What are you kidding? You're going to get poisoned. So is this another story for the police to say, oh, woe is me? It's so hard being a cop. It's to take my life in my hands every day. Is that what this is all about? I don't know. But everything is a question to me. I don't believe anything anymore. Nothing. Any comments, Rick Scheben?
Yeah. Could this be a Jesse Smollett syndrome example. And what I mean by that, could the cops have actually maybe put bleach in their shake, or just to say, hey, everybody's against me? I don't know. Could this top detective who said that wasn't a crime, could he have been paid off for future promotions, money under the table? Was he threatened or intimidated? See, could be that too. How about all the New York cops? Now, to all the New York cops who are listening to this show right now, to all the police officers, and Vince will agree, I stick up for police officers probably just as much as anybody who really does. I stick
almost as much as I do.
Yeah. So, yeah. Okay. And that was pretty obvious with the sarcasm there, folks. You know, I try to call a spade, but I want to talk to New York police officers directly here. And I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. Apparently, from my connections and from what I've read between the lines, Anthony Weiner's computer had things like pedophilia on there, had Hillary Clinton crimes, had a lot of stuff on there. And a lot of you cops knew what was on there. In fact, I remember reading about a top cop who got a cush job for keeping his mouth shut. Now, to all the police officers out there, you know, when you want credibility, when you want validity, when you want respect, and you hear things like this, of all those people who knew about Anthony Weiner's computer, and not one whistleblower regarding being a proponent of the rule of law came forward because you were afraid to lose your paycheck, your benefits, and your pension over principle. Now, all this white male privilege, you know, like here's an article here, Trump interview with Michael Savage. We're filing a big lawsuit Friday to stop mail-in voting. Well, of course, everybody agrees with that who has common sense and believes in the Constitution and rule of law. Of course, mail-in voting would be a rigged situation. Everybody knows that. Every baby in the forest knows that. But all this white male privilege, I want you to think about this, whether you're a cop, whether you're voting, whether you're Black Lives Matter, all this BS. 93% of us, the bottom 93% is being used, and we're being poisoned against each other. And I'm going to go back in time, and I've mentioned this before. When I tried to get it, when I was in 1979, I was bench pressing 365 pounds. I could have been a great New York fireman. And that was the year the women's group sued, and they couldn't pass the physical test, so they demanded to lower the bars of standard and expectations for a job. So hard work, proven results, and qualifications never meant so little as they do today in America. And then the same people, when I got a degree in forestry to try to leave New York, to come out to Montana to work for the U.S. Forest Service, the same people demanded to lower the bars of standards and expectations. They would not hire me. They hired two girls sitting in the waiting room with no education and no experience. And then, when I was working for GlaxoSmithKline, I was diagnosed with spinal stenosis. I asked for a part-time job share. Human Resources told me to my face they were for women only. Lawyers told me I did not have enough group self-pity points. Lawyers told me that if I was a female and the same thing happened to me, I would have a $10 million lawsuit by the end of the day. So the same people who demand to lower the bars of standards and expectations demand no protection, rights, or restitution under the rule of law for anybody affected. And guess what you're doing? And yes, I'm being repetitive on this, because you've enabled and protected the most corrupt companies in the country and in the world. You've given them liability. These are the companies that are giving us synthetic drugs. These are the companies that are basically not curing disease, but manufacturing the reduction of symptoms for the disease, and want to give us vaccines with total liability immunity. We have destroyed capitalism. We're enforcing fraud, illegitimacy, and fascism while we are allowing the super wealthy to take money out of our pockets and give it to them. We have given free lunch by allowing divide and conquer strategies to occur. Now, here's a few articles here. I've mentioned them on the air, and I'm going to do it again. GlaxoSmithKline pleads guilty, pays out billions of dollars for federal, criminal, and civil inquiries, illegal promotion of some of its products, failure to report safety data, and you want them to create your vaccines, right? Alleged false price reporting as part of the healthcare fraud settlement, defrauding Medicare and Medicaid out of billions of dollars. So Medicare is Social Security. So when your Social Security, folks, is worth nothing, and you're giving pensions to government workers who are as much as 10, 20 times the monthly payout in pensions, and you're funding them, are you going to go to GlaxoSmithKline's management and ask for your money? This is what happens when you give these companies liability immunity.
Oh, Rich, you mentioned go to GlaxoSmith. You mentioned go to GlaxoSmithKline and ask for money. I believe that's what you said. I don't think. I think the time for asking is over. I think the rioters are telling everyone in government, we're not asking for anything now. We're telling you this is the way it's going to be. We've had it. We've absolutely had it. Rich Scheben and I'll be right back after these few short commercial announcements. Rich Scheben's with us. He's in Montana. I'm in Missouri. Rich, please continue.
Well, thank you. I was talking about GlaxoSmithKline and how we can't have this different set of rules, laws, and accountability based on what group you're in for the sake of certain benevolence and political correctness and phony everything. It's all phony. It's all made up. Okay? GlaxoSmithKline fabricated drug data and lied to the FDA. These are the articles I have in my hand. Okay? I have them in my hand. But you got to remember something. They defrauded Medicare out of billions of dollars. Okay? That's Social Security. Same thing Bill Clinton. He took out gazillions of dollars, replaced it with IOUs. So the people who are funding government pensions are running out of money. Pharmaceutical giant GlaxoSmithKline accidentally released concentrated live polio virus in the environment in Belgium. How many people got sick, maybe died from that? How about this? U.S. media blackout. Italian court rules vaccine cause autism. This was a GlaxoSmithKline product. You really want GlaxoSmithKline and the pharmaceutical companies to give you vaccines? Farrakhan is right, but it shouldn't just not be taken by the black community. It should be by the bottom 93%. GlaxoSmithKline was even caught paying out $63 million to vaccine victims. And who got the majority of that? Probably the lawyers. Nothing is to benefit the little guy. Here's an article right here. Soaring food and energy costs spark rebound in producer prices. You think that helps the little guy? When you print money left and right and you lose purchasing power and they're asking you to pay for it through taxation and inflation on top of it? Next article, third of renting Americans worried about next payment as recovery. You think that's helping out? All this rioting and looting and destroying of businesses and murder and rape and mayhem, you really think that's helping out the little guy? When they can't even come up with rent payments? And then think about this. You talk about absurd moments in history of capital markets. Hertz, the car rental place, plans to sell up to $1 billion in new bankrupt stock. How does that even make sense? And next article, Ukraine intercepts $6 million cash bribe to stop Burisma investigation. You think that has anything to do with Joe and Hunter Biden? Really? Does that question even need to be answered? Next article, tweets are reason to keep prosecuting General Flynn. Judge said because Trump is tweeting too much, we need to keep prosecuting Michael Flynn. Can you believe this? Trump, not only is his tweets getting censored and edited, I mean, I'm not even in my own house because I'm on the alternative media. I've been demonetized for years. A lot of my phone calls aren't coming in. I'm not getting emails. It's unbelievable what's going on right now. And here's an article by Ben Carson. Stop being offended by everything and grow up. Apparently that was to Stacey Abrams and the Democrat Party. You know, we've gotten to the point where truth doesn't matter. It's all about holding the narrative and creating the propaganda and hoaxes behind it. They start out with where they want people to be, where they want things to be, and everything is acting in theater to get there. Doesn't matter if people get murdered or raped or lose their businesses or lose their homes or they go on fire or they eliminate the rule of law. See, this is what delegitimization of work has set the stage for. It's created precedents to eliminate the validity of the rule of law. It's created precedents to where hard work, proven results, and qualifications in America today mean less than it ever has because of victim group or protectionist group status. Okay? So when you demand to lower the bars of standards in the job, you demand no right to restitution under the rule of law, and then you enable and protect the most corrupt companies in the world and give them liability immunity while allowing wealth inequality and distribution of wealth, while everything is about what group you're in, your hyphen, your pronoun, and individuality means nothing. Can you connect the dots? America's being destroyed by all this propaganda, hypocrisy, and double standards and brainwashing. We're being used as pawns. We're being played. We're being conned. We're being duped.
Yeah, and that's what the rioting's all about. We'll be right back right after these bottom-of-the-hour commercial announcements. Rich Scheben's with us. Rich, I've been thinking about a lot of the things that you've been saying during the last hour and 34 minutes. And what I've come up with is that there's a difference between USA Prepares and its instructors versus all the other broadcasters and their guests. And the difference is that we actually live what we talk about. They just talk about it. So we actually do it, and they talk about it. That's one thing. Another thing, I was listening to you talk about discrimination at GSK, GlaxoSmithKline. I've been to GlaxoSmithKline. I saw their optical data system where they took me to the inner sanctum, where they showed me how they were recording trials and data and their experiences with drugs to optical disc back in the mid 80s, which was a revolutionary technology. I saw it firsthand. So I was there. I was at GlaxoSmithKline, and I was listening to your story about discrimination. Well, I've been discriminated against too. I remember pumping gas at the gas station, and this guy pulled up in this car, and he had a sticker on his car that said he was going to the university that I was trying to get into, the same one my dad graduated from, and I could not get in. And those were the days of reverse discrimination. So if you were white, lots of luck, you weren't going in. You're getting in. And so I couldn't go to that university. And I really appreciate it because in the long run, it worked out better for me. But in the short run, it was pretty painful. So I have experienced, a little bit of discrimination as well. And that was, what was that called? That was called affirmative action. That's where we take affirmative action to put people in positions that should no way be there. That's what affirmative action means to me. Now, I'm sure there's a politically more correct description of what that means. But you mentioned, I believe you mentioned, that the current administration is weighing $1 trillion for infrastructure to spur the economy. Is that correct?
That is correct. I want to hear where it's going.
Okay, boy, that's terrible.
So do our listeners.
It is absolutely terrible. And that's the thing I was telling you. That's going to make you angry. If you're part of this class, it's going to make you angry. So, MSN, mainstream media, MSN.com. Headlines, Trump, quote, Trump team weighs $1 trillion for infrastructure to spur economy, end quote. This is this morning. Okay, this is an article this morning. Quote, the Trump administration is preparing nearly $1 trillion infrastructure proposal as part of its push to spur the world's largest economy back to life, according to people familiar with the plan. A preliminary version is being prepared by the Department of Transportation that would reserve most of the money for traditional infrastructure work like roads and bridges, but would also set aside funds for 5G wireless infrastructure and rural broadband, the people said. 5G. If that doesn't want to make your blood boil, I don't know what will. Goes on to say, lawmakers who attended a closed-door meeting with the president in February 2018 said he told them he'd support in February 2018, said he'd support a 25-cent per gallon increase in gas taxes. But President Trump never publicly endorsed it. Okay. Republicans who don't want to raise taxes and Democrats, it drew opposition from Republicans who don't want to raise taxes and Democrats worried about the impact on low-income populations, end quote. Now, let's talk about this. Let's talk about fuel taxes. So the average fuel tax in the United States right this moment is 53 cents a gallon. So whatever you pay at the pump, there's the price of the gasoline, or the cost of the gasoline, plus the retailer's markup, plus the delivery, and then there is sales tax, which averages 53 cents per gallon across the United States. The highest state tax is in California, 61.2%, or 61.2 cents. Let's just call it 61 cents, state tax. Then you add the federal tax. Then you add the local tax. In the lowest is Alaska, which is 15 cents a gallon. Second lowest is Missouri, which is 17 cents a gallon. Now let me give you these numbers. So if the federal tax now is 18.4 cents a gallon, and the president wants to increase it by 25 cents more, that's a 136% increase over the current federal component of gasoline tax. That's just of the federal component. So that means that if the average price per gallon tax, state and local and federal, is 53 cents a gallon, and President Trump wants to add 25 cents more to that, that's going to bring the average to 78 cents a gallon. 78. That's almost $1 a gallon. That absolutely frosts me. Going from 18 cents a gallon to 25 cents a gallon is a 136% increase. Has he lost his mind? He's giving away and authorizing money, digits, to be squandered to who knows where, because the government won't tell us where it went. It's being squandered, and yet he wants to charge us another 136% more gasoline tax. It absolutely frosts me that he wants to do this, or that he would support this, or he would endorse this. If that's true, he has lost his mind to give it to 5G. So we get locked down to prevent the spread of the coronavirus. We get businesses shut down to stop the spread of the coronavirus. And then he wants to weaken our immune systems by implementing infrastructure of 5G, more microwaves. President Trump, I ask you, have you lost your mind? Did you ever take a science class? Seriously. Have you ever cooked a cup of coffee in a microwave oven? Did it work? Did it get hot? What do you think that 5G is? It's microwaves. Are you trying to kill us all? Finish off the rest of us? Are you listening to morons and bozos with individual agendas that want to see us all dead? How's that going to work when you want your roads built? I'm furious. I thought it was just me. But I was watching a rerun of Columbo after I came in and collapsed last night from working on the farm. And there was Lieutenant Columbo on the screen. And he got angry. He pounded his fist on the desk. I thought it was just me. Columbo did it too.
Can I just comment on what you just said, please?
Sure.
Solution-wise, what we need, we have a Surgeon General, we have all these government workers. We need a 90% reduction in government workers. Most of them are incompetent, and most of them care more about manufacturing the perception of their own self-importance and own self-preservation. Now, what we need is with all these generals and all these government heads where you can't even fire these people. President Trump, we need an anti-political correct general. Have a PC general that represents truth for the benefits of the bottom 93%, because nothing we do works, okay? Whether it be discrimination, affirmative action, quotas, whether it be using the black community, using women, using everybody. It's gotten to the point where if you're a poor middle-class white male heterosexual with a Christian name, you can't even control your own destiny. When you allow the delegitimization of work and lowering the bars of standards and demanding no rights under the rule of law, while you're enabling the same people who are enabling and protecting the most corrupt companies with a liability immunity and all this wealth inequality, and we give free lunch to the elite around every corner, we need an anti-political correct general. That's the best thing that we need. Our own Attorney General, you've had coups against you for crying out loud. Coups! What the hell is our Attorney General doing? What we need, instead of gas tax, Mr. President, we need laws of excess. The people get together. Nobody should have a net worth over $10 million. How about that? All this funding, Black Lives Matter, all these articles we've given over the years, from Bill Gates and the funding of George Soros and all these, Black Lives Matter, literally having it's a money laundering shell company for Democrats called Act Blue. Why don't we stop the funding, stop the propaganda, stop all the agendas that are occurring with forced austerity, crashing the economy, delegitimizing work, ending free markets, getting rid of cash, getting rid of patriotism, having technology control everybody, social distancing to make us submissive, hiding Joe Biden, creating domestic violence and depression, eliminating the Constitution, creating starvation, depopulation, eliminating free speech, reducing our immune system, forced lockdowns, all this stuff, all these agendas. If we can stop the funding from the corrupt elite at the top, because no one has the guts to arrest and indict these people, I can't see any other solution. Unless the elite just sit back and allow everybody to kill each other in the bottom 93%, while the elite run to their Cook Islands, run to New Zealand, run to their yachts, run to their bunkers in their thousands and thousands of acres of ranches. And we can't do a damn thing about it because the elite are funding us to use against each other. We are allowing the elite to destroy us. We're allowing the elite to poison us against ourselves. We are de-evolving by plan. Now, we've talked ideas and solutions and suggestions on this show till the cows come home, till we're blue in the face. And we don't see anybody in government taking any of these suggestions. Because God forbid they don't get credit for an idea. Because they're so worried manufacturing the perception of their own self-importance and self-preservation, they don't give a damn about the bottom 93%.
Yeah, it used to be. It used to be said, if you can't get a job, you can always work for the government. That's what we used to say, like in the 70s. Rich Scheben's with us. Rich, just to recap, here at USA Prepares, early in the beginning of the very, very early days of the coronavirus, we predicted the corona panic. We predicted the protests. We predicted the supply chain disruptions. We predicted the truckers refusing to make deliveries, all of which were absolutely accurate. And now, if our government decides to squander money on alleged infrastructure improvements such as 5G, more microwaving of every living thing on the planet, I predict, I'm not advocating, but I predict that there will be more fires. There will be the burning of businesses in the 5G business. There will be burning of the towers in the United States, of 5G towers, because there's no reason for it. There's absolutely no reason to go faster, faster, faster. Do we really need to be able to download a movie in a couple of minutes? Do we really need that? We are going so fast right now that motorcycles are crashing into the back of stopped cars because they can't stop fast enough. That's how fast we're going. We don't need to go faster, Elon Musk, between the United States and Europe. We don't need to go so fast that we can't react in time to stop or swerve or maneuver to prevent collisions. We don't need to go faster. We need to do better with less. We need to economize. We need to save fuel and stop boring holes through the atmosphere. That's what we need to do. We need to be polite. We need to restore education. We need to teach people the golden rule. Stop throwing litter out the windows. Helping people rather than pummeling them with guns and tasers and tear gas and smoke grenades and armored vehicles. The Pentagon has released, actually I said that wrong, leased equipment, unleashed equipment on the United States people through the police departments, weapons of war. I'm talking about automatic guns, automatic weapons, grenade launchers, etc., including pistols, automatic pistols. They're equipping the police with all this stuff. Weapons of war, armored vehicles. Really, why? So you see some protests, and what do the police do? They escalate with armored vehicles. Is that necessary? I don't think so. The people have had it. And you know what? The people outnumber the government. There are more people than there are people in the government. Wake up. Stop lying to the bottom 93%. Stop it. Stop taxing us into oblivion. And now the cops are saying, well, it's terrible. It's terrible. It's really rough putting on that uniform. People think that we're all the same. Of course they do. Of course. All you guys with your costumes and your body armor and your billy clubs and tasers and all the rest of that. Of course the people think you're all the same. Because you haven't cleaned house. Yet. Since the beginning of time. Rich?
Yeah. Well, keep in mind, folks, don't worry about so much the left-right paradigm, because the so-called experts and a lot of official authorities have been bought and paid for to basically carry the narrative. You know, it's just like when Obama was caught on a hot microphone telling the Russians he would have flexibility after the next election. Just think if President Trump did that. He'd be arrested right now for collusion, treason, and sedition, okay? Remember George Soros at Davos, Switzerland. He said that Trump will not be reelected because they are going to make sure the bubbles pop. And remember, a lot of so-called celebrities like Bill Maher was calling for an economic crash. Everything is fake. Everything is phony. Everything is designed for divide and conquer strategies, and to be distracted with breads and circuses, and to be dumbed down by public and government institutions. It's designed this way. It's in the books. It's in the templates. It's in the blueprint, the playbook, the flowchart for destruction. All you got to do is read Marx, the Communist Manifesto, Alinsky, Cloward and Piven, the Frankfurt School. It's all in there. They're going play by play. They're going by the numbers. It's the whole plan is there. There would not be, if everybody who is rioting right now read that, they would realize they're being duped.
Rich, let's cut right to the chase. Let's just say it the way it is. The definition of a traitor is a person who betrays another, a cause, or any trust. A person who commits treason by betraying his or her country. So a traitor betrays trust, a cause, or any trust. Anyone involved in deploying 5G has betrayed our trust. Is a traitor. Anyone. So if you're in government and you support 5G and you want to deploy that so more people die, you're a traitor. You've committed treason. And what's the penalty for treason? I think it's too late.